Look at us go. We've already got all of section 1 complete. Are you ready to move on? Hey everyone, Cristin here, and I'm so proud of you all. We already have section 1 complete, and I'm loving seeing all of the blocks that you guys are doing. You're doing such a great job of staying on top of it and keeping up. Good job, everyone. Doesn't that look so fun? We're already done with section 1. So we have all of these together and ready, and then we also have our 2 extra watermelon blocks. So we're a little ahead. Pretty cool. All right, so just put these aside for now. We will use them later, and put your section 1 aside, and let's go ahead and get started on the next one. So we are going to work on pop bottle. So it's on page 23, pop bottle, and there are 3 of these. So let's go over what we're going to need for today. All right, so if you organize your packets the way I did, then you're going to see all of these items for the pop bottles, but then you'll see all of these too. Confused me for a second. I was like, why are these in this packet? These are for the pinwheels, and they're for later. So you can put those in your embellishment packet for later. We're not going to do this right now. We're just going to work on the pop bottles today. So let's go ahead and go over these. These are very simple, very quick blocks. All right, so the first one, pop bottle 1, is going to be this blue fabric. It's light blue with a bunch of words all over it. And we're going to start with this at 4.5 by 8.5, 4.5 by 8.5. All right, and then for pop bottle 2, we have the yellow fabric, or actually it's white fabric with yellow words all over it. Again, 4.5 by 8.5 for our main fabric. And then pop bottle 3, our main fabric, is red with all the words all over it. All right, and again, 4.5 by 8.5. I did back all of these with Fusible stabilizer to make sure not to get any puckering. And these, I really highly recommend you stabilizing them well. I recommend it on all of them, but these, we're going to use the cut line to cut these. So if you haven't stabilized these well, they are not going to come out to the right size. So make sure to back them with your Kimberbell Fusible backing. Highly recommend for these 3 especially. All right, so those are the main fabrics for the 3 pop bottles. And then we have the clear vinyl. So this is that stuff that's hard to find or easy to lose once it's in your packet. So just be careful with it. Hopefully you can see this. All right, and so for our clear vinyl, we want 3 pieces, 1 for each of those blocks, and they're going to be 2.5 by 5.5. 2.5 by 5.5 for the clear vinyl for each of the pop bottle blocks. We'll have 1 for each block. All right, that's it. Those are the only applique pieces. Super quick and easy today. We might even do a little more. So, well, let's just start with these. So then we're going to quilt these. So whenever we quilt, we use batting, and our batting for this today, what do I have? It's 3 by 7, 3 pieces at 3 by 7, 1 for each block, 3 by 7 for your batting. All right. And then we are going to quilt all 3 of these with the same quilting design. It's going to be lines 2 in vertical, lines 2 vertical quilting design. You can use any quilting design that you want, but if you're going with the Kimberbell official guide, they used lines 2 in vertical. All right, and like I mentioned, stabilize these well. I highly recommend stabilizing them, because the last bit, there's special cut instructions on these, and the last bit is to cut exactly on the cut line. So we'll have a cut line in our design. It's probably going to be the same as our basting stitch, my guess. So we probably will not actually stitch it, but we'll know that once we get there. Actually, we'll know that because I'm going to merge them into one hooping. Let's do that. Let's go to the computer. Hey everyone, I'm at my computer now, and I'm just going to quickly show you how we can join those pop bottles in one hooping if you choose. All right, also depending on your hoop size. So we actually only need 1 of these pop bottles today. So if you wanted to, you could save the other 2 for later. I think it's easier to do them all together. And then when we get later into our quilt, we've got some blocks that are already done and we're ahead of the game. So that's why I do the 3 together, but it's totally up to you. So I'm going to open up Embroidery Essentials. That's the embroidery software that I use and recommend. and show tutorials on how to do it. So if you're in the market for embroidery software, please use my affiliate link. All right, we are going to start. I'm on my 8x12 hoop. I don't think that'll be big enough, but let's go ahead and give it a try. So I'm going to go to my preferences folder. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to first try bringing in a design. So I'm going to go to merge stitch file. Sorry about that, right there, merge stitch file. And we are looking for lines 2. It is KDQ016. I have it on my desktop here. And we're going to look for the 2x6 in a vertical right there, 2x6 vertical. Double click on that. It will go to the center. I'm going to keep this here. And I'm going to go ahead and make all of the changes and go from there. So on this first one, I'm going to open up this plus sign, and you can see we've got that default 1 blue and default 2 orange, and we've got it twice. And so those will join if we don't change those. Since we're going to bring in the pop bottle embroidery design on top of the quilting design, we'll probably have default 1 blue and default 2 oranges again. So I'm going to go ahead and just change all of them. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this first one. It's 1-1. And then click on the color, and I'm just going to choose the first color that comes up, which is dark aqua. Like I mentioned in yesterday's filler block video, the color doesn't matter, it's just the first thing that comes up for me. All right, and then default 2 orange, that's 1-2. I'm going to click on the color, and I'm clicking on blaze. And then 1-3, default 1 blue again. I'm going to click on that color, and we already used dark aqua. You can see it right here. So I'm going to choose marine and say OK. All right, and then the next one, 1-4, click on the color, and we already used blaze, so I'm going to choose Oriole and say OK. Now on the quilting design, each of the background fabrics are different, so I'm going to want to have a different thread color, and we don't want those to join, so I'm going to change that on all of them. And we'll have to remember to change that 5th one after we do our copy and pasting. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the color, and I'm going to choose Sprout, the first color that comes up for me. All right, so that one is done. That's the quilting design. We've kept this in the middle so that we can also bring in that pop bottle. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this merge stitch file button again, and I'm going to go to the embroidery files. Pez is what I use for my machine, red, white, and blue quilt, and I think if I just click on this it will populate. There we go. All right, and we're going to look for the pop bottle right there. Make sure there isn't a larger one. Nope, 5x7 pop bottle. Double click on that and it goes to the center. That's why I kept it in the center. This makes it very simple. You don't have to line up the pop bottle. So that one is done. We have to check all those colors to see if there's going to be any overlaps, because we are going to do a color join since we're doing 3 of these. And I wanted to make sure that we're not supposed to move it. Both designs are supposed to be centered, so we are fine. It doesn't say anything about that. All right, so I'm going to click on this number 2. So we've got caramel. There's a default 1 blue. See, good thing that we changed that up there so it doesn't join. There's another default 1 blue, so we do need to change those as well. Let's see. So this one is the placement for the vinyl, I'm assuming. That is the straw. Placement of the vinyl, tack down of the vinyl. Oh, and this is that. So this is the cutting guide. As I mentioned earlier, when we went over the fabrics, there is a cutting guide that will come, and you can see it's right on our, if I click outside, it is right on our basting stitch. So we don't need this. You can delete this, and then you don't have to worry about any of them joining, because you would delete it. But I'm going to leave it in so that I remember to tell everyone that we don't need it at the time that we're stitching. So I'm going to go ahead and just change mine real quick since we already have a default 1 blue. I don't want those 2 to join. So I'm going to go ahead and change the color, clicking on it, and we've already used a few of these. We used Magic Mint, I think. Oh, we will. So in our quilting, we will. I'm going to leave that one. So I'm going to choose Cloud. Okay, so that was the 4th one down for me. All right, so this one is done. These we can do a copy and paste and have them all join and everything should be totally fine. Even though there's some defaults in here, they're not earlier in our design, so it will be fine. And I did change that to 4. All right, so I want 3 of these. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Now you can do it 2 ways. You can click anywhere outside and drag down to have all of it. The easiest way, in my opinion, is to just close up these and then drag down from the bottom down. There we go. From the bottom up, sorry about that, and then move it over. You want to make sure that you have both. You can even go here. This will make it easy. If we go to Edit Group, and then these are grouped together, so you don't have to worry about when you move them to make sure that you've got both and so on and so forth. You can just, they're all grouped together. Okay, so I'm going to just move this over here. That worked out perfectly. Over to the very left hand side, and then we need 3 of these, so I am going to hit Control C to copy, and then I'm going to hit Control V like victory to paste. All right, I'm doing that on my keyboard, but you could also go up here to this edit menu and there's a copy and paste there. So whatever you feel comfortable with. Now it pasted right on top of that first one. So if I click on the stitching, I can see it and move over. All right, and now you can see that this is going to be too tight for me, but let's go ahead and keep going. So that's the second one. Now we're going to hit Control V like victory to paste again, or again use that edit paste. That will work fine too. The outcome will be the same. All right, so if I click outside, you can see these are super close, like stressful close to me, way too close, because keep in mind that our main fabric, Kimberbell, provides us with, I believe it's 2 inches larger than our final cut size usually, so that's quite a bit of overlap of fabric, so that would stress me out to have these. Now before I change hoop and go further, I want to make sure to remember to change that quilting design. So we have, let's see here, I'm going to go ahead and close some of this. So we have our quilting and our pop bottle, so that's good. So then we're going to go to number 3. So on this number 3 design, if I open that up, see we have that sprout again, and that would join with the first one. So I want to make sure to change that. So I'm just going to click on the color, and we already used sprout, so I'm going to use sea green and say okay. And then I'm going to close that one up, and then it should be number 5. See the Kimberbell quilting right there, number 5, and also 5. So 5, 5, click on that. We have sprout again. We want to make sure to change that so that we have time to change the thread color. So click on the color, and I'm going to use the third one down for me, which is mint, and say okay. Okay, so those all should be perfect. We have 6 designs, so 3 of the quilting and 3 of the pop bottles. Normally I would move these so that the quilting is all together and the bottles are separate. I am going to do that because then we're cutting the batting all together. I'd rather have all of the quilting designs together. So that's very easy to do, and it gives me an opportunity to show you how to do something else. So if I bring this up, so here is number 3, the third design. I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to say move earlier. All right, and you can see it brought up the quilting 1 and 2 are together, the first two pop bottles are together, so we want to move this one up as well. This is number 5, quilting design number 5. So I'm going to right click on it. I believe you could also do it, let's do this. If I move it, if I grab it and move it over, it moved it up 1, but not quite enough. So the way that I'm doing that is to click on the design. If you click on the wording, then it thinks you want to change the name. So I click on the design, and then I'm just bringing it up. All right, and it doesn't always work. That's why I like this. Right click and then move earlier. To me, that's easier. All right, so either way, that's a couple of ways that you can do that. So we have quilting 1, quilting 2, quilting 3, pop bottle 1, pop bottle 2, and pop bottle 3. So that's all perfect. Now, before we make any changes on our hoop size or color sorting, not hoop size, before we do our color sort, we want to make sure to have our hoop right and we have the designs exactly where we want them. We have to do that before doing a color sort. I mentioned this in yesterday's video as well. So I'm going to go ahead and change my hoop size. Again, if you have a 6x10 or an 8x12 hoop, if you feel comfortable with this, go for it. Personally, I would do 2-in-1 hooping and one in another hooping because it's too close to me. But you have to do what works for you. So if I did a 9x9 hoop, in fact, I'm going to do a 10x10 because either way I have to use my larger stabilizer if I'm using my 9x9 or my 10x10 hoop. So I'm going to do 10x10. It'll give me extra room. And again, you do what you feel comfortable with. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this first one and I'm going to move it all the way to the left here, making sure I can still see that black square without it being over my hoop size, the hoop side. All right, and then I'm going to do it on this one as well. Okay, so that's great. Now, if you're a little OCD, you can see that they're not perfectly lined up. You could do that on your own, or you can go to, or leave it. It doesn't actually matter, but it bugs some of us. So if you go to this utility button, we can go to align and distribute. I forgot that we do have to highlight the ones that to tell it what we want to align and distribute though. So I'm going to just close all of these designs, and then it's the easiest in my opinion is to click and drag up to make sure I've got all of the designs. So I want to point something else out is since that first one was grouped, so see we don't have to worry about it being like if I had moving the pop bottle versus the quilting. Those stayed grouped, so that's nice. I'm going to go ahead and leave that all wonky so that you can see what it will do. I'm going to click and drag up to make sure that I have all 6 designs. And then I'm going to go to Utility, Align and Distribute. And I'm just going to click this center button here. These will stay the same. Leave them unchecked. That works for me. All right, and see it moved all of them. They're not actually centered, so I'm going to move that. But it centered all of them with the first design that was up, I guess. All right, so then this distribute tab, this is the one that will make sure that the same amount of space is between these. So I click the center and apply, and you can see that it moved that one. And I have a call. We'll ignore it for just a minute. Sorry about that. All right, so that's all done. I can close that, and then just me being me, I'm going to move these down to the center of the hoop. See that center line there? And so those are all lined up, and that's all perfect. Okay, great, great, great. So now we're ready for our color sort. We have 27 steps right now, and I'm going to go to Utility, Color Sort. And it says it reduced it by 16. So let's click New View to check it. Make sure that it did what we think it should do. So it creates another tab. Here's that first tab with all 6 designs. And then the new tab, second tab, is all in one design. So I'm just going to click that plus sign and quickly check all of these. All right. So we have the placement of the batting, tack down of the batting, placement of the main fabric, tack down of the main fabric, and then we have each of these different quilting designs. They're the same quilting design, but they're stopped so that we can change the color on those, and that worked perfectly. All right, and then we have the straw on all 3, and we have the placement for the vinyl and the tack down of the vinyl. And again, this one you don't need, but I'm going to keep it for the tutorial. But this is that guide for cutting, which we'll just use the basting stitch. So you could stitch it again if you want. You don't need to though. So that all worked out exactly perfectly. Yay! And we have 11 steps instead of 27. So that's very nice. So I'm going to do a file, save stitch file as. And I'm in my quilt, so that's perfect. I'm going to say pop bottles times 3 and say okay or save. All right, and I don't have my machine on, but you could send that to your machine or add it to your USB drive and bring it to your machine, and we're all ready to get stitching. Hey everyone, so I'm thinking that once we do those easy pop bottles that we could do one more. What do you think? Can we fit one more in? I don't think it will be bad because this one is like the easiest one ever. So the next one is Cherries on page 14, and it looks like there's a lot, but there really isn't because these two pieces of fabric, so the red houndstooth and the red cherries, we're going to actually save these for later. These are embellishments to be able to make those. I think they're called yo-yos. I'm not absolutely sure, but they're to make the cherries, and we'll use those later. So you can just put those aside, put them in your embellishment pack if you have a pack for your embellishments, and we'll just work on the one applique piece for our cherries. So the cherries block is on page 14 of our guide, and just like I said, it's a really crazy easy one, so why not? All right, so we are going to start with this blue plaid fabric, and we're going to start with it at 6.5 by 8.5, and I highly recommend always stabilizing, right? So stabilize your fabric. I put my Kimberbell Fusible backing on it. So 6.5 by 8.5 for our main fabric, and then we just have one applique piece. Super easy, quick one. It is the green with swirlies on it. I did back mine with Fusible stabilizer, and I want to point out also on these two, I mentioned this in the prep video. So these are the ones that we'll make cherries out of. I did not prep these. I think it will be easier to make those cherries without them prepped, without them stabilized. That's what I'm thinking. I'm not sure. But at this point, I have not stabilized these, just so you know. All right, so back to the leaves. Sorry. So the green swirly fabric, I did back up with Fusible stabilizer. We're going to start with this at 3.5 by 2.5. So it's going to go this way. 3.5 by 2.5, and it is for the leaves, and that's it. That's all we have for this super easy, quick applique. We are going to quilt it, and this one does have special cut instructions also. Oh, so it's going to have trimming guides for us. So I'll go over that at the end of the video when we're ready to cut. So we are going to quilt it. So we're going to want a piece of batting, and I have my batting at 5 by 7 because our quilting design is 4 by 6. So 5 by 7 for your batting. And then the quilting design, we're going to use food 3. So I told you all at the very beginning of this project, actually even when we announced the project, that there is a bundle, but if you did Vintage Boardwalk with me, we used a lot of the same designs, and so you may not have needed to purchase the bundle. This one was not in the bundle, so I had to go buy this one today. So I just wanted to warn you in case you're doing like I did and just using from what we've purchased in the past. This one, it's not a brand new design, but it's not one that we used on a previous project from Cristin Creates. So it's a new quilting design for me that I added to my library. So this one is food 3. It's really cute. It's the cherries design. So, and there's like lines and cherries. It's super cute. So that's what we're going to use for this cherries 1 block. If you choose, that's what I'm going to do. Food 3 in 4 by 6. All right. Food 3 in 4 by 6. And super simple, quick, easy blocks. So I think we should add it on for today. And there are going to be some cut instructions, but we'll go over that. And we're working on section 2, and we're going to be already very close to done with it already pretty soon. We haven't started it, but we're going to be really close because we're getting a lot of them done today. Hey everyone, for those that want to join the Cherries quilting and the Cherries block. I'm going to very quickly show you how to do that. I think I'll do them separately on my machine, just for those that don't utilize software. I try to balance it between everyone, but I think that that would be, either way is super duper easy. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly open Embrilliance Essentials, and I just want to point out a couple of things on this cherry block. So I'm going to, right here, I'm on my 5x7 hoop. So if you're not on that, you want to use a smaller hoop for this. If we're not combining anything, it's easy. It's a small project. So preferences folder and then 5x7 hoop, say okay, and then you can always hit this compass button to zoom into the hoop. All right, so I'm going to go to merge stitch file. That's this button up here, and my red, white, and bloom is on my desktop, and here's the quilting. So I only have some of the quilting files in here, and the reason is because these are the ones I've had to purchase separately because I didn't buy the whole bundle because I bought so many of the designs, almost all of the designs, last summer when we were doing Vintage Boardwalk. And so there's just a few that are in that bundle that I did not already use. So I bought them now. So Food 3 from Kimberbell, this is the one that we'll use today that I haven't used before that I just got. It's KDQ 031. And I'm going to hit this plus sign to open it up, and embroidery files, and I use Pez for my machine. And it actually doesn't say in the quilting design, or maybe I missed it, but I didn't see where it says which direction. We want a 4x6 design. So right here, there's a 4x6 vertical and a 4x6 horizontal. It's not going to be turned in the hoop, so I'm going to go ahead and do this vertical one. I'm pretty certain that that's what they would have used for the quilting on Food 3 for this Cherries block. All right, so that goes right to the center, and I want to just show you. So we've got the usual default one, blue and oranges, so we'll have to change that. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring in the cherry design because I think there's probably going to be some more default blues and oranges, and then we'll be able to determine just what we need to change. My guess is we'll need to change pretty much all of it. So if we go to this merge stitch file, and I'm going to close up my quilting so I can see more, and here is my embroidery files for red, white, and bloom on my desktop. And I'm going to click that folder and it will populate. And we're looking for Cherries in 5x7. It's right there. So see this? See the, this is going to be a trimming guide, and I'll show you why we won't need that. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on it. It goes to the center, and see that trimming guide? It goes right on top of our basting stitch. So we don't need that. It's not going to matter. We don't need to stitch it. So I'm going to just delete it when I get to that point, or actually I'll bypass it because it's the last step, I'm sure. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and open up these cherries, and see there's our default blues and oranges. That's what I expected. So it's just those though. The other ones will be fine. So it's just the default blues and oranges that we need to change. So you can run through all of the default blues and oranges and change them, or you can just change 2 of the 3. There's 3 sets of them. There's one there, and one there. So 2 of them have to be changed, or you can change all 3. It doesn't matter either way. All right, and like I said, you can do this on your machine. You could bring in the quilting design and then bring in the Cherries design, and it should go right to the center anyway. So that's a very simple one. And that's why I was saying this is an easy one. If you want to do it on your machine, you don't need to make any changes, super easy. But if you're using Embrilliance and you send it to your machine, just make sure that you're not doing any color sorting or anything unless you do make those changes. And I've shown you in lots of videos how to change the color, so you already know how to do that. But I wanted to give you a quick visual on these trimming guidelines. And I wanted to point out that it does automatically go to the center. That's why these are here. That makes it centered, because otherwise this bow would go to the center and it would be down here. So they did that in the digitizing to make sure that this is going to land where we need it to be. So that's all perfect. I'm not going to send it to my machine because I'm just going to use the 2 separate files. I went ahead and I I sent just the Cherries 3 or Food 3 quilting design to my machine, and then I sent the Cherries embroidery block design to my machine. And like I said, you can certainly group these together and do a color sort and all of that. It's not super necessary, but you can do it that way or do it on your machine. Either way will work fine, and you can see that it goes to the center. So that was just a really quick little visual for you. And my shirt today is Brave and Strong. I really like this one. It's a fun one. I will add a link under the video for where I got it. I believe it was Hoop Mama, and it's a really cute design. I like it, and it's on a nice Under Armour sweater. So anyway, I'll share information underneath the video. And how are you doing with your goal? So I did 2 bike rides yesterday. I didn't do any strength training because I didn't get on the bike until like 11 o'clock at night. It was super late. Long day yesterday. So I did, what was it? A ride in Hawaii and somewhere else that was really cool. I'm already forgetting, but both of them very good rides, good workout. Tonight's ride has me climbing about 1,700 square feet. So not square feet, 1,700 feet of climbing. So that will be a hard one, but it will be a good workout. And I'm going to try and get to my workout rim before 11 o'clock at night so I can fit in a strength training exercise as well. So that will be important. That's actually my goal. So what is your goal and how are you doing with it?